So, it's finally here. We finally get to the episode that I've been looking forward to most. The episode starring Shoji. Yeah, this is going to be a great breakdown. So let's dive right into it. Hey guys, how's it going? It is your boy, Manga Andrew, and I'm here to do my anime breakdown for My Hero Academia Season 7, Episode 14. And yes, this is going to be a Shoji-centered episode. However, it's not going to be the only Shoji-centered episode. That is going to be this episode and the next one, focusing on my favorite underrated character of My Hero Academia. And let's just say that I'm glad that Horikoshi was able to give him this moment, as he said that he was going to do many years ago. So, there's a lot that we really need to talk about and break down in this episode, so let's just dive right into it and really talk about what makes this episode great. And to start off, the episode is titled Together with Shoji and takes its name from manga chapter 371, and the episode itself covers approximately 3 chapters, chapters 370, 371, and chapter 372 up to page 10. And the episode starts off with a flashback to a particular character's backstory. The lizard appearing in this section, as well as what the people are saying, may make you think that it's about Spinner. However, this backstory is actually for Shoji and is actually going to be brought back later on in this episode as confirmation of it. And I will say that this section of the manga, in comparison to the anime, was very divisive because of the themes of discrimination, but the anime seems to have done a better job at conveying the points as well as the feelings seen in the manga in this episode. And after the opening, we get an added transition that we've been getting in most of the episodes when it comes to the map of all of the locations where the war and the battle is occurring in Japan, and how this has been helping to ease into the next scenes as we ease into the scene of Central Hospital, where the anime improves on what the manga had by adding colors reflecting the tone and the destruction more clearly than it was in the manga via the more darker tones, and that the area is being lit by the fire itself and a little bit more darker than the quote-unquote blue sky above it. And how within this section, as well as with the rest of the episodes, there are a lot more flashbacks that were in the manga, but a lot of them that were not in the manga. But even the ones that weren't directly in the manga does add to the atmosphere as well as to the storytelling of this episode, and it does not actually hinder it in any way or possibility. But it's from this point where we get to see Spinner, as we get more exposition, as we see that Spinner and the crowd of heteromorphs are searching for Kurogiri, and we do have some added scenes that show that the heteromorphs are fighting back more than we saw in the actual manga. And I will say that there is a slight edit in the anime from the manga. And in the manga, we are seeing President Mike going in for the attack, but we also see that the rioters are holding up the heads of the Creature Rejection Clan and using normal civilians as shields. However, in the anime, it never shows the Creature Rejection Clan's heads or clearly depicts the people as human shields in the moment that President Mike is shouting out and attacking them. And while this isn't a big thing, it could take away from the idea of what these people are doing, why they're doing it, and to what extents that they're willing to go to achieve their perceived goals. But even with those scenes being edited, there are also a lot of scenes that expand on the manga material in the anime, especially when it comes to the cops. Because there is a scene that we see in the manga of the cops firing off laser rifles, but the anime expands upon that scene a little bit more to clearly show that they are still fighting back, but are heavily outnumbered 15,000 to 200. And how the anime clearly depicts that one of the officers in the crowd is actually the same gorilla-like officer that was talking to Garaki towards the beginning of the actual fight with Dabi versus Shoto Todoroki. But with this scene, we also get the more infamous scene from the manga in the anime, where we see all of the heteromorphs yelling at a black man, specifically Rocklock, and how we could never understand what the heteromorphs are coming from, and this is in reference to them being discriminated. And I won't go into a big deep dive on this. I've actually made a video on it. What pretty much this scene is saying is that it is very ironic yet truthful what's happening with Rocklock as a black man, and the idea that he would be able to understand where the heteromorphs are coming from by being discriminated, really showing that the heteromorphs may be out of touch with the world and may not be as educated as the rest of the world. However, there is some truth to the fact that the hatred that they were given would be completely different from what we've seen with Rocklock in comparison to our real world and most likely the world of My Hero Academia. And going on from that, there are a lot of scenes that add to the anime of random heteromorphs charging in and attacking the heroes as well as the cops. And I won't point out all of those scenes, but I'm glad that they're adding these scenes to the anime because it's good to see these smaller scenes expanding upon the fight and the moments in this episode, making the episode better overall. And that also leads into Koda being attacked and called a traitor. That leads into the Bug Man speaking, who was actually a general in the Paranormal Liberation Front, spreading propaganda and riling up the people to commit violence. And that during his speech, we get quick cuts to horrible atrocities committed on the heteromorphs. And what I like about this is that this is something that is added to the anime that was not seen in the manga, and it really just shows the brutality of what the heteromorphs actually face, and just the added blood transition was cool, and that we also get to see more of the violence being muted to show that it's still relative to the world of My Hero Academia, but was still something that has a lasting impact on them. And that from the moment where that speech begins to end, Spinner begins to be in the process of losing control with, once again, added flashbacks that were not in the manga that really add to the scene in the anime. But Shoji comes in with his octo blow, sending Spinner reeling. And as we see, the civilians are also calling him a traitor and pinning him down. It's revealed that in this moment, the flashback that we saw towards the beginning of the episode was in fact Shoji's. And that it's in this moment where he declares his resolve, and that the heroes were the ones who saved everyone, heteromorph or not, during the Jakku incident, as he's able to break free of the rioters' control as he questions whether or not Spinner has a plan for why he's attacking a hospital. And this is very important because while the heteromorphs do have reasoning for why they are doing what they're doing, the fact that they are attacking a hospital filled of innocent people that may have nothing to do with them, it really just shows that they are not really thinking clearly and purely acting on more or less vengeance, which is something that Shoji would be against. Also, this is the first moment, ignoring the anime OP, that we get to see Shoji's face in clear view and the scars on his face. And I will say that what the anime does to Shoji's scars in comparison to the manga, it makes them less severe, which is a shame because it really takes away from how badly he was treated and how intensive the scars are, which leads to what we're going to learn later on for why he actually covered up how bad the scars on his face were. But from there, we also get to see Spinner gets overwhelmed by the emotional baggage going on in his head, almost ruining the entire plan. But the bug-looking heteromorph eventually comes and tries to help keep the crowd angry, showing that the crowd is not fully committed to the cause and are very much hindered on the idea and faith in Spinner. Also, there are a lot of crowd shots in this episode and a lot of still frames of just the characters not moving, and that this can be a little jarring, but it actually doesn't hurt the visual style and the animation flow of the episode. But from there, we get to see Shoji beginning to question Spinner on his actions as he is trying to regress society 30 years, as we get a transition of Spinner into his new form, as we see that he got another quirk from All For One, also known as Scale Male, included on his body bulk quirk, and how the scene in the anime is more brutal and bloody than it was in the manga, as the scales are just coming out of his skin as more blood is coming from his body than we saw in the manga. And that the anime gave Spinner a dark red appearance with the Scale Male, which looks amazing as we get that he slashes into Shoji, as we get the start of the flashback of Tomura bonding with Spinner, really showing that Spinner did have a connection with Tomura outside of him just bandwagoning and following him. And just as a slight note, that in the anime, they say that they played LOOL, but this is supposed to be getting around the copyright of LOL, League of Legends. So both Spinner as well as Toboro were potentially League players, which makes a lot of sense for who they are as characters, being very much evil and the worst of human society. But it also shows that they did have something that they were able to bond over besides just being villains. But with that small moment of characterization, Spinner begins to attack and does massive damage to Shoji as the bug-like heteromorph man speaks more propaganda. But from here, we do get the start of the flashback with Shoji, where he's explaining his past in front of Class 1A, explaining how he got the scars and why he wears the mask. And how this scene pretty much is the characterization that we may have wanted from Shoji for so many years, as we see that most likely this scene is taking place right before the overhaul arc where Deku and Bakugo were still on house arrest. And now this scene kind of is allowing us to really understand the motivations and the beliefs of Shoji for why he wants to be a hero, and that it's shaped by his past, and how he was able to create good memories by saving that girl from drowning in the river. But by doing so, he wants to reflect on the good instead of the bad, where we see that he's able to bond with the rest of the students of Class 1A, saying that they're going to give him a lot more good memories. And how the reasoning why we got this flashback in this moment is to pretty much build up to what's going to be happening with Koda, with potentially his quirk awakening, his horns breaking open, amplifying the power of his animal voice. And from also what we're getting after the fact, we do get more added action sequences of Shoji fighting against Spinner, as Shoji gives his speech towards everyone have their own voice and not just to follow what the villains are saying. However, the bug heteromorph is still trying to fight back, but luckily enough, Koda is able to break open his horns, revealing them, allowing him to amplify his quirk to be able to attract the crows. And what's very interesting about this scene is that in comparison to what we get in the manga, they actually allow for the horns to have a sort of glowing light on them, which was not necessarily the case in the manga. And it's from that moment where Shoji begins to declare his resolve on who he is, as we get a moment of present Mike reflecting on what got them to this location, as we get a flashback of Shoji and Koda confronting Aizawa and present Mike, telling them that they know what's going to be happening, that they know that a crowd of heteromorphs are attacking Central Hospital, and that if they do not allow for Shoji to participate in this, then he does not believe that he can be a true hero. And how this leads to present Mike as well as Aizawa coming to the realization of how these students have become stronger than what they were in their youth, and present Mike dedicates himself to try and help and protect and lift them up. And it's at the start of this flashback that we really get the emphasis and the build up to what's going to be happening within the next episode with the potential release of Kurogiri, but also just showing that the connection that present Mike actually has towards his students. And something else that I want to add here is that there is something in the flashback that is an included cut scene from episode 5 and the final panel of chapter 341, with the entire crowd of heteromorphs heading to the location of what Spinner tells them to do. And that there was also within this scene in sequence of All for One giving Spinner a device that is going to be playing a major role in the next episode when it comes to the awakening of Kurogiri. But with all of that, we do get Shoji, Koda, and present Mike doing massive damage and blows against their respective opponents, with Koda getting a small personal flashback of his mom explaining what it means for his horns to come in, and that it's okay for him to be mad for the people that he cares about, giving her own anecdotal evidence of how she met Koda's father, as he was getting mad and protecting her over people insulting and criticizing her beautiful horn. And it's that this moment that allows for Koda to use his signature move, Hitchcock Birds, to silence the bug heteromorph paranormal liberation leader, as present Mike is shown in clear detail in the anime in comparison to the manga, breaking Spinner's blade sword, as Shoji delivers a massive octo expansion blow that is animated spectacularly in the sequence. as if he is punching Spinner with the same force as All Might himself. And it's at this moment that Shoji gives his last speech of the episode to try and change and sway the minds of the people. However, the scene is expanded from the manga, clarifying and showing more clearly in the anime the reasoning why Shoji got his scars and why he hides his scars from everyone, because the girl that he saved in his home village was the reasoning why he was attacked. Because he touched her and saved her, the village people knew of his existence and attacked and scarred him. And that because the scars made him look quote-unquote scarier, that's why he hides them. And it's at this moment where it seems as if his words are finally reaching the people, but Spinner actually interjects and wipes it all away, giving his own examples, saying that he still has hatred, how he was sprayed by insecticide by just going outside, allowing for the people to retain their hatred, as the blow that Shoji delivered on him did not finish him off. And as we see the gorilla heteromorph police officer fire off gunshots, the crowd continues to push forward as Spinner finally breaks into Central Hospital as the episode ends. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the episode. It ended on a little bit of a downer, and that downer is most likely going to be continuing into the next episode. But yeah, overall, I thought that this episode was done very well. It's not the best animated episode of the season, nor is it the best animated sequence so far, but it probably is the episode that has given me the most emotional impact, but that's because I really like Shoji as a character, just aesthetically, and just with this flashback, his entire character as a whole. But yeah, that's pretty much it for my breakdown for Season 7, Episode 14. And let me ask you this, what did you think of the episode? Did you like it? Did you dislike it? Could it have been done better? And are you looking forward to what's going to be in the next episode? Leave your thoughts down below, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more content like this. Do all that cool jazz, and hopefully I'll be able to catch you in my next video. Goodbye!